Good to have you on Planetterrian Daily, episode 108, coming to you on July 2nd, 2026. Some interesting findings to cover today. A biosensor now tracks rare lipids that cluster in membrane hotspots exactly when cells face stress. Researchers developed a new detection tool that overcomes prior limits in sensitivity and selectivity for observing lipids inside living cells. The sensor shows these molecules gather at specific membrane sites during stress responses, enabling organelles to communicate and adapt. Earlier methods could not resolve these localized events in real time. The work opens direct study of how lipid organization supports cellular resilience. Next steps include applying the biosensor across different stress conditions and cell types. Most people picture cell membranes as uniform sheets of fat, yet specific lipids rapidly cluster into hotspots the moment a cell detects stress. These hotspots can form and dissolve within seconds, allowing organelles to exchange information far faster than diffusion alone would permit. From membrane-level stress responses inside cells, we move to population-level signatures that may reflect how those responses accumulate over a lifetime. Gut microbiome profiles from long-lived individuals show distinct taxa abundances compared with age-matched controls. The patterns correlate with metabolic and inflammatory markers previously linked to slower aging. The study adds microbiome composition to the set of measurable traits that track with lifespan. Replication in additional cohorts is now underway. Because the taxa differences track with lower inflammation and better metabolic control, they move the open question of which interventions translate to humans, one step closer to testable targets. The next data to watch are longitudinal samples that show whether these signatures shift with diet or probiotic interventions in shorter-lived populations. While microbiome differences track with lifespan, other environmental exposures also shape long-term health outcomes, as seen in communities near the Salton Sea. A field study measured fine dust, household conditions, and lung symptoms in surrounding communities. Children in homes with poor ventilation and high outdoor particulate exposure showed elevated rates of respiratory illness. Structural factors such as older housing stock amplify the effect of regional dust events. The data link environmental exposure directly to measurable health differences across neighborhoods. From localized human health impacts, we shift to how entire ecosystems capture and cycle energy in unexpected ways. University of Amsterdam researchers showed certain sponges harvest sunlight via symbiotic microbes rather than feeding solely on plankton. Measurements on reef sites quantified the carbon fixed through this route. The contribution varies with light availability and sponge density. The finding revises estimates of energy flow on coral reefs. Photosynthetic sponges contribute up to 11% of tropical reef productivity under measured conditions. Ecosystem energy flows depend on specialized adaptations. Similar narrow specialization appears in the archaeological record of early human diets. Analysis of 50 archaeological sites shows specialized focus on the largest available prey. Stone tools and butchery patterns remain similar across latitudes and time. The dietary pattern persisted even as smaller game became available. The study reframes early human adaptation as narrow rather than opportunistic. From hidden evolutionary processes, we turn to a major new observatory now delivering data on cosmic structures. The NSF DOE facility has started the 10-year legacy survey of space and time. Japanese teams contributed software and follow-up systems developed on the Subaru telescope. More than 80 researchers already hold data access for coordinated observations. The combined wide field and targeted data will address questions on dark energy and solar system objects. Large-scale observational systems also operate closer to home, as shown by heat pump deployment in industrial settings. Syntef, a NEO, and Fellowship installed a custom heat pump that extracts waste heat from agricultural processing. The system delivers more energy output than electrical input under continuous operation. Measured savings reach millions of kroner annually in electricity costs. The project moved the technology from lab models to full-scale deployment. State incentives pay dairy farms to capture methane from manure and convert it to pipeline gas. Calculations show the credited reductions do not match actual atmospheric changes once full supply chain emissions are included. The program has expanded rapidly because payments exceed verification costs. Revised accounting would lower the net climate benefit assigned to each installation. A 15-year record links extreme weather to white stork injuries in Bulgaria. The Wildlife Rescue and Breeding Center logged admissions from 2010 to 2025. Storms and temperature extremes accounted for rising fractions of trauma cases. Survival after treatment declined in years with more severe events. The dataset supplies one of the longest continuous records for a single bird species in the region. An open-label study randomized patients to a 3-drug polypill or enhanced usual care. The combination of metoprolol, spironolactone, and empagliflozin raised left ventricular ejection fraction at 6 months. Heart failure hospitalizations and emergency visits also fell in the polypill arm. The results support simplified regimens for reduced ejection fraction cases. Archived samples allowed University of East Anglia researchers to reconstruct the global spread of one resistant lineage. Resistance traits accumulated in stepwise fashion, peaking in the mid-2000s. The pathogen remained largely undetected outside hospitals during its expansion. Genomic timelines now clarify when key resistance genes entered circulation. A national inventory now lists at least 82 established non-native mollusks plus 13 of uncertain origin. Shipping, aquaculture, and aquarium trade drive the increase. Several species alter nutrient cycling and compete with native snails and mussels. Continued monitoring will track further range expansions. University of Alabama in Huntsville modeling shows nanoscale dust near the sun can channel energy into the corona. The mechanism operates through electric field interactions that prior models omitted. Observed temperatures millions of degrees above the surface become easier to explain. Further observations will test dust abundance at different solar distances. University of Wisconsin-Madison scenarios compare net zero pathways to 2050. Strategies heavy on direct reductions produce lower air pollution and fewer premature deaths. Heavy reliance on carbon dioxide removal allows continued fossil emissions that offset some benefits. The difference reaches tens of thousands of avoided deaths per year. Field counts and modeling identify the lake as Africa's largest wetland refuge for water birds. Some conflict zones unexpectedly shelter higher bird densities than surrounding areas. The study demonstrates that remote sensing methods can track populations inside insecure regions. Continued monitoring will test whether the refuge effect persists. Before we go, keep an eye on further genomic timelines from archived pathogen samples that may clarify resistance gene entry points in additional hospital lineages. That covers today's science and health news. Share this with someone who's curious about the latest research. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. See you next time. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at NARA Network. Links in the show notes. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts on tech, science, and markets, each one a short, sharp briefing you can finish on the commute. If today earned its place in your feed, here's your next listen. Fascinating Frontiers, the most fascinating news from space and science. Find every show free at naranetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.